The king is done asking. The king is done negotiating. For months, we have whispered about the deadline, the ultimatum, the final straw. But sources inside the palace confirm that the theoretical threats have ended. The execution has begun. King Charles III has officially initiated what courtiers are calling a financial siege, and the target is his own brother. The instruction has gone out to the keeper of the privy purse. The order is absolute. The £1 million annual allowance, the fiscal bridge that has kept the Duke of York afloat since his catastrophic fall from grace, has been severed. This isn't a pause. This isn't a review. This is the lights going out. But if you think Prince Andrew is sitting in the dark at Royal Lodge waiting for the end, you don't know the Duke. Cornered, broke, and humiliated, he is reportedly activating a nuclear option that no one saw coming. It is being called the Bahrain Gambit. While Charles tries to force him into a farmhouse in Norfolk, Andrew is looking east, plotting a secret relocation to a sanctuary where he believes he can still live like a prince, immune to the British press and the king's austerity measures. The battle for Royal Lodge is over. The war for Andrew's survival has just gone global. Welcome back to Royal Family Daily. If you believe the king is making the right move by finally cutting the cord, go ahead and like this video. It sends a message that the monarchy must come first. Now, let's get into the details of this brutal eviction. To understand why Andrew is looking to the Middle East, you have to understand the absolute devastation of his current position in Windsor. The financial siege is not a metaphor. Charles has methodically stripped away every layer of protection Andrew had. The Duke has no personal income. His inheritance from the late Queen and Prince Philip has been burned through on legal fees and settlements. That £1 million allowance from the Duchy of Lancaster was the only thing paying the bills. Without it, Andrew is effectively destitute in royal terms. But the king knows that cutting the money isn't enough to get Andrew out of the Royal Lodge. He has to make the Duke want to leave. And this is where the tactics have shifted from financial to physical. Reports from inside the Windsor estate paint a picture of accelerated decay. The Royal Lodge, once the jewel of the Queen Mother's portfolio, is falling apart. We are hearing about black mould creeping up the walls of the ground floor reception rooms. Structural damp is compromising the roof. The exterior paint is peeling and the brickwork is crumbling. Under normal circumstances, the Crown Estate would step in to preserve a historic asset. But sources say the Crown Estate is weaponising these repairs. They have presented Andrew with a bill. A massive, immediate demand for £250,000 in urgent repairs just to keep the building habitual. They know he doesn't have the cash. But here is the trap. By allowing the property to fall into disrepair, Andrew is violating the terms of his 75-year lease. The king's strategy is brutal but brilliant. He isn't just evicting Andrew, he is nullifying the lease surrender compensation. Andrew thought he could trade the lease for a payout. Charles is ensuring that the lease is worthless because the liability of the repairs outweighs the value of the contract. The king is effectively starving him out, letting the mould and the damp do the work that the lawyers couldn't. Andrew, however, refuses to accept the reality. In a desperate attempt to find a compromise, the palace offered him a downgrade residence. They offered him Marsh Farm. It's a 5-bedroom farmhouse on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk. To the average person, it sounds idyllic. To Prince Andrew, it was an insult. Insiders describe a furious, first-look inspection that went horribly wrong. The Duke reportedly flew into a rage upon touring the property. He rejected Marsh Farm outright, calling it pokey and complaining that it was in the middle of nowhere. He views the offer not as a lifeline, but as a final humiliation, a banishment to the agricultural hinterlands, far away from the power centre of Windsor, far away from the king, and far away from the status he still believes he holds. But the rejection of Marsh Farm goes deeper than just ego. There is a grim irony in the king's offer. Environmental reports on the Norfolk property reveal that Marsh Farm sits on a high-risk floodplain. It is entirely dependent on the Wolferton pumping station to keep the water at bay. If that station fails, or if the tides turn, the property is in danger of literal submersion. Think about the metaphor. The king is offering his drowning brother a house that could physically go underwater. It is a sign of just how little patience remains in the royal household. They don't care if he's comfortable. They just want him gone. And it's not just the king turning his back. The most shocking development in this saga is the collapse of Andrew's domestic support system. For 30 years, Sarah Ferguson has been his rock. Even after their divorce, they have lived together, fought together, and faced the world together. They were the unbreakable unit. That unit has shattered. Sources close to the Duchess of York suggest she is finally reading the writing on the wall. Fergie is reportedly ending their cohabitation pact. She sees the ship sinking, and she is not going down with it. We are hearing reports that she is actively seeking her own residence, looking at properties in the Cotswolds, and even eyeing a semi-permanent move to Portugal. She has her own money now, her own book deals, her own podcast. She has rehabilitated her image. Staying in a mould-infested royal lodge with a bankrupt prince is bad for business. If Fergie leaves, Andrew is truly alone. He faces the prospect of lonely exile, wandering the halls of a 30-room mansion that is slowly rotting around him, with no money to fix it and no one to talk to. And he will be doing it without protection. This is the part that truly keeps the Duke awake at night. The security blackout is now in effect. King Charles refused to renew the £3 million annual contract for Andrew's private security detail. That contract expires within weeks. The 10-man team that has guarded him around the clock is being disbanded. You have to remember, Royal Lodge is not inside the secure cordon of Windsor Castle. It sits in the Great Park. It is accessible. Without that private security team, Andrew is vulnerable. He is a target for intruders, for paparazzi, for anyone who wants to make a statement. He has argued that his status as a target requires protection, but the Home Office has already stripped his police protection, and now the king has stripped the private guards. This vulnerability comes at the worst possible time. The spectre of the past is rising again. The Epstein Files Transparency Act is looming over everything. The US Department of Justice has released 12,000 new documents. While much is redacted, the steady drip of information keeps the scandal alive. It keeps the pressure on the Windsor household. Every new headline is a reminder to the king that, as long as Andrew is in the UK, he is a liability to the crown. The king wants him invisible. He wants him in a farmhouse in Norfolk where the press won't bother to go. But Andrew has a different definition of invisible. Cornered by the financial siege, abandoned by his ex-wife, and terrified of losing his security, the Duke has devised the Bahrain Gambit. This is the twist that has the palace panic-stricken. Sources suggest Andrew is secretly plotting a relocation to the Middle East. Specifically, Bahrain. Why Bahrain? Because in the Gulf, Andrew is not a pariah. He is not the disgraced Duke. He is still the son of Queen Elizabeth II. He is still a Royal Highness. Andrew has spent decades cultivating deep personal ties with the Al Khalifa ruling family. He has visited frequently, often as a guest of the state. To Andrew, Bahrain represents everything the UK is not. It is a press-free sanctuary. The local media is controlled. They will not harass him. They will not ask about the FBI. They will not fly drones over his swimming pool. It is a tax haven which solves his income issues. And, most importantly, it offers the deference he craves. Royal insiders suggest the move is being framed as a strategic retreat. Andrew believes that if he moves to Bahrain, he can live in the grandiosity he feels he is owed. He can live in a palace, not a farmhouse. He can have armed guards provided by his hosts. He can escape the social stigma that follows him into every room in London. But the Bahrain Gambit isn't just about retirement. It is about a delusion of relevance. Reports indicate that Andrew intends to leverage his connections to act as an unofficial trade intermediary. He wants to resurrect his former role as a special representative for trade and investment. He believes he can be the bridge between post-Brexit Britain and the wealth of the Gulf. He thinks that if he brings home billion-pound deals, the British public will forgive him. He thinks he can buy his way back into the fold. It is, of course, a fantasy. The Foreign Office would never sanction it. The King would never allow it. But Andrew is beyond asking for permission. He is desperate. The logic is simple. In Norfolk, he is a washed-up old man in a damp house watching the rain fall. In Bahrain, he is a VIP. He is a statesman. He is important. This puts King Charles in a nightmare position. He wants Andrew out of Royal Lodge, but he does not want Andrew running a rogue royal court in the Middle East. A prince of the blood living in exile, cutting side deals with foreign governments, is a diplomatic catastrophe waiting to happen. It echoes the Duke of Windsor in the 1940s, a loose cannon that could cause immense damage to the monarchy's reputation. The king's financial siege was designed to crush Andrew into submission, to force him into a quiet, controlled retirement in the UK. But it may have backfired. By squeezing him too hard, by taking away his money, his security, and his dignity, Charles may have pushed Andrew to break free entirely. Andrew knows that the king cannot stop him from leaving the country. He knows that if he boards a private jet to Manama, there is nothing the palace can do to bring him back. He could live out his days in luxury, shielded by an autocracy, occasionally releasing statements that embarrass his brother. The standoff at Royal Lodge is coming to a head. The money runs out this month. The security guards leave their posts. The mould is spreading. Sarah Ferguson is packing her bags. Andrew has two choices left. He can accept the humiliation of Marsh Farm, accept that he is a minor royal on a muddy floodplain, and fade into obscurity as the king demands. Or he can play the Bahrain Gambit. He can burn the final bridge with his family, flee the jurisdiction, and try to rebuild his ego in the desert. Those close to the Duke say he is stubborn enough to do it. He feels betrayed by Charles. He feels abandoned by William. He feels he has served his time in purgatory and deserves a life. If the UK won't give it to him, Bahrain will. The trucks are not yet at the gates of Royal Lodge, but the end is here. The king has tightened the noose, but he might have just forced the prisoner to escape. What do you think is the better option for the monarchy? Should Charles let him go to Bahrain and risk the diplomatic fallout? Or should he pay up and keep him contained in the UK? It's a choice between a loose cannon and a money pit. Let us know in the comments below. As this situation develops, the one thing we know for sure is that the relationship between the brothers is dead. The siege is the final act. And whether it ends in Norfolk or Bahrain, Prince Andrew, as we knew him, is gone. Make sure you're subscribed to Royal Family Daily. We are tracking the flight logs and the moving vans. As soon as the Duke makes his move, we will have the update. Until then, the siege continues.